Hi, I'm Nerm with Firstpost, and my hair is looking awful. No, this is my lovely friend Tanuja Desai Hidier, who's actually an esteemed author, a writer of fiction for young adults. First book was called Born Confused, which was all about American confused Desies. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so
or supposedly confused.
Supposedly confused. So when did the first book came out, and it was designed for a younger audience?
Yeah. The first book is called Born Confused. It came out 15 years ago this year.
Okay.
And that's quite exciting. It's considered to be the first South Asian American coming of age YA novel, and also one that features LGBTQ characters, from that realm and culture. And hopefully we'll be doing some celebratory events. They're kind of in the works in New York and London. But that celebration also feels like resistance at the moment in the current political climate. So it's feeling particularly important to...
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I have friends, young female friends of mine that I've met over the years, cite her book as one of the things that sort of helped them find out who they were, especially Indian girls in the West. Read your book and were just found a glimmer of hope, which is quite sweet.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful to hear that. I mean, for me, I wrote that book to kind of take that American-born confused Desi moniker and through a character's journey redefine this C for confused into one for creative. Right. Because that seemed to be much more accurate in terms of the subculture and culture I was witnessing and living in New York City in the late 90s. And the period that I drew on was this kind of late 90s moment when Basement Bhangra, that party, kind of launched and became a regular on the circuit. It's 20 years old this year, actually, or 20 years new. South Asian studies departments were flowering, and you had kind of the development of lots of organizations like the South Asian Gay and Lesbian Alliance, Journalists Association, etc. And within that circle, there was a real, it's more than a circle, it was like an ever-rippling out circle. There was a real sense of subculture rising to be culture and defining a new space. Sort of, in the past I'd sort of thought of myself as not quite Indian, not quite American, but then this was like a sort of turning that around and viewing a hyphenated identity as a viable new space and culture in a really positive way. So I wanted to tell that story and also fill a hole that had been on my childhood bookshelf. Right. With characters who looked like the people in my home and in my world at that point.
And how did the book do in India?
It initially launched in India without my knowledge, because I was doing an event in New York City, and some people in the audience were asking me about the reception in India compared to that in the US, and I said, well, it's not out in India. And I said, no, it actually is out in India because I've got a copy, my cousins have a copy, etc. So it's kind of come out in India a couple of different times. Right. But it re-released in 2014 because I did a sequel set in Bombay called Bombay Blues. And at that point, in these last couple of years, I've started to get more messages from readers in India and who feel like they connect very much with that New York set story. And I think now there's so much back and forth and movement between all of these kind of sister cities in different places. Like I've run into you on the street in different
there you go. And I think also the whole idea of basing your sequel in Bombay was quite interesting, because at that point Mumbai was just kicking off with a whole other subculture, musically, creatively, artistically, and it was interesting getting those figures from the first book there. And their interactions in that place, and that followed your real life experiences.
Yes, because I went to Bombay, Mumbai in 2008 to see if it would spark the idea for a sequel. And my prior trips to India had really been just to my grandfather, my grandmother, really like just kind of staying in the family homes. And this time in 2008, it was the first time it was a combination of seeing family and then just kind of going out. I was with Rekha, DJ Rekha. We were sort of out in Bandra, staying in Juhu. And then I was literally running into people I knew from the New York scene on the streets of Bandra. And, I met Monica Shire and Funk at that point, and some different kind of musical acts, etc. And it felt really like a parallel universe. Like so many things felt the same, but then yet not at all, right? Because you're standing in an ancient fishing village and, it was kind of like all of my different lives all met in that moment.
Yes.
Because I had family history. I was there with a friend from New York, and then it was this whole new layer of Bombay that I had never known that felt so connected to my life in New York.
So
that felt like a portal in for me. And although I didn't write the sequel till a few years later, I feel like that was the moment when I felt like I could make my own connection in my current day life as well as a historical one. Very exciting.
And so you're able to combine your life with this fictional account. And then that book was released in India, and then your first novel, Born Confused, came out in India properly. And has the impact on both of them in India been like positive?
It seems to be. Unless they're whispering behind
your back.
There.
Right in this wall.
No, it seems to be. And it's also been nice. There have been readers in Bombay from Bombay, Mumbai, who've written and said that they found that really interesting as well, to see this kind of layer of the city. Because it's not, it's a definite, vital, vibrant area, but it's interesting. You can live in a place and not kind of intersect. In other.
And see it in a different way.
And for me, it was really thrilling, because I think for me, I really wanted to make a deep connection with this place, this city of my mother's birth, my brother's birth. My parents met there. They had an out of caste, courtship there and married there. And my grandparents were there. I was very close to my grandfather particularly. And we always wrote, letters on that pale blue airmail stationery. And I think of the city as Bombay because that's what it said on the airmail stationery. It's like it was that personal connection with my grandfather, and that was the city he felt that he was in. And for me, that word evokes all those
memories and all those thoughts, and and also I think that it's the title of your book. So Bombay Blues, that kind of makes sense as well. And I think the interesting thing to me is that you wrote a bunch of music for it as well. So not only are you a writer of esteemed novels that have changed people's lives, which is really, really awesome.
You're
but
really,
also,
really kind.
Oh well, there you go. And also, I'm really not. But you wrote an album as well called Bombay Spleen. Why call it Bombay Spleen and not Bombay Blues?
Well, actually,
to sit with the book title.
No, I know what you mean. I guess they're companions, right? And the album draws from themes and scenes and feelings, etc., emotional arcs from the book. But as I was writing the songs, it became clear that the sort of narrator in the songs wasn't quite exactly the narrator in the book. It became a little bit of
two different characters.
Yeah, a bit of that. And actually, originally the title I was thinking of for the novel was Bombay Spleen. That was my first thought, and Bombay Blues was going to be the album.
Because blues is more musical than not, right?
And I was thinking that because there's also Paris Spleen, which is Baudelaire's.
Just going to say, we're at Jaipur Lit Fest live at the British Library.
That's buzzing.
And this is mental because there's people just crowded around. They're all waiting to go into another session. So that's the background noise you can hear, if you can hear anything at all. But I just wanted to explain that. So carry on. You were saying, so Bombay Blues as the title of the album would have made more sense.
Well, so Bombay, Paris Spleen is Baudelaire's prose poem to Paris, and then I was that's a book that the character's reading in the novel. So first I was thinking of that, Bombay Spleen, as being kind of a prose poem to Bombay. And then I talked to my editor, we were kind of thinking, but if people don't know the reference, the title in the book, etc. And then it just sort of naturally swapped around.
Because to me, spleen is something very medical, and it's a part of the body that needs to be operated on.
Well,
more
but also
often than not.
In French, to have the spleen means to have guts and also to have the blues. It's really interesting. There was like another layer there.
Right.
So
that's because you're married to a Frenchman, so that's probably why you have that additional layer.
En fait, c'est lui qui m'a
kills me when she speaks French.
Ooh la la.
Terrible. Just general. Voulez-vous? Anyway, whatever. We're going to end up just singing in French to each other. It's just so ridiculous. But so, your books are out right now.
Yes.
And the album is out right now.
Yes.
So go and purchase them, and there's a video coming out that you wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah. So from Bombay Spleen, the album that goes with Bombay Blues, there's a track called Deep Blue She, and that's kind of the most overtly political track. I think they're all political in a sense that they're a celebration of the other, supposedly.
Well, I mean, I guess it's political because you've got a strong Asian female at the helm anyway, which is you. So that's, by its own nature, it's kind of
it's
different.
So this song is it's a kind of female empowerment, human empowerment, LGBTQ anthem, and a kind of call to rise up and love your daughters more, teach your sons to lay down swords. And I'm very excited about the video because it's featuring more than 50 artists and activists Mostly female, but not only, as you know.
Oh yeah,
and
I forgot about that. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
And they're kind of musicians, DJs, authors, educators, teachers, dancers. There's a farmer as well, and it's all kind of a montage of all of us bringing our diverse experiences together, and you know, kind of
pushing things forward.
Yeah.
And when's that coming out?
It should be hopefully next month sometime.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing it.
Thank you very much. Me too.
Yeah, I'm really thank you, Tanuja. It's good. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Yeah. But look, go buy her books, Born Confused and
Bombay Blues.
Bombay Blues are out right now at bookshops, and Bombay Spleen is out everywhere where you can get music, which I don't know where now. It's all digital.
Yeah, it's
in
kind
shops
of all over
and
the
everywhere.
place.
Yeah.
So iTunes, CD Baby,
yeah,
Bandcamp, all that.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Right. See you later.